Thank you for joining me for another episode of Remember the Great Sports NBA 2K20 roster edits. Today we're going to look at the New Orleans Pelicans all-time team, and to give a little brief background on the New Orleans Pelicans, the original Charlotte Hornets moved to New Orleans and played under the name the New Orleans/Oklahoma City Hornets for a little while until they changed their name to be the Pelicans, and then the expansion team, the Charlotte Hornets, took the name the Hornets. So this team's going to feature players that only played in New Orleans. So they could either be a New Orleans Hornet or they could be a current day New Orleans Pelican. So this video is not going to take too long because honestly this is an exceptional roster put together by NBA 2K20. I feel that this franchise is so... this franchise has only been around technically since they went to New Orleans for less than 20 years. So there's not a lot of history to draw from. However, I feel there's one small little thing that I didn't set well with me, and I'll tell you about that after we go through the stock roster. So, point guard Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, Baron Davis, Jamal Mashburn, small forward, Jrue Holiday, shooting guard, small forward, DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie at center, shooting guard David Wesley, Tyson Chandler at center, power forward Julius Randle, Peja Stojakovic at shooting guard, power forward Ryan Anderson, shooting guard Eric Gordon, small forward Tyreke Evans, and power forward, there's two on here, and power forward Zion Williamson, and shooting guard J.R. Smith. So I actually correct myself. I actually have two changes on here because I didn't realize I did that. But the person that I recommend deleting is J.R. Smith. And the reason for that is you're pretty rich in the shooting guard category already. You have Eric Gordon, you have Peja, you also have David Wesley, you also have Jrue Holiday. And if you want to really get down to it, Baron Davis can play the shooting guard position as well. So you really have a lot of shooting guards on this team. So I decided to change it up with a current Pelicans player. And the other person that I recommend deleting is Julius Randle. And Julius Randle is a good player, but if you look at his numbers, he only spent one season with New Orleans before he moved on to the New York Knicks. And he had an exceptional season. He averaged over 20 points a game. But being that he only played one season in New Orleans before he went to the Knicks, I have to drop him off the list because I'm adding a big man to this team, because there's kind of a lack of big men on this team, in my opinion, kind of the power forward centers positions. That either you're listed as a center or a power forward, and there's just not a lot of them here. So I dug back into the research and I found a center that I added to the list. So let me show you who I added to this team really quick. Alright, so here we are at the starting lineup, and if you look down at the number 6 slot on this page, you'll see the person that I added, but we'll talk about him when I get to him. But your starting point guard is Chris Paul. You have Jrue Holiday at the shooting guard. You have Jamal Mashburn at small forward, and you can almost argue that this one needs to be swapped out, and we'll talk about that in a second. I have Anthony Davis slotted in at the power forward position, and I have DeMarcus Cousins, Boogie, at the center position, and he only played there for a season and a half. I understand that, but because there's so little history of the Pelicans, unlike Julius Randle, I felt Boogie would be an important person to have on this team as the starting center. Now, the first person I add is Jamal Mcgloor. And you may not remember Jamal Mcgloor because he was only in the league for, I want to say, a short period, but he spent a few years in the league. And he was a pretty big player coming out of Kentucky, and he put together some pretty solid seasons for New Orleans early in his career, and he actually made an all-star team one year as the lone representative of that team in New Orleans. So He was a good paint guy. You know, he could score 10 to 12 points a game, but also pull down about 10 or 12 rebounds. So he's a perfect backup center if you don't have DeMarcus Cousins already on the bench. I like to have Cousins and Davis out there together. Just my personal preference. Now the backup point guard is Baron Davis, backup power forward, and even though he had never played a game when this game was made, they still put Zion Williamson on the team, which I guess I'm okay with that for now, because who else are you going to put on there other than Julius Randle, I guess, but he's already moved on. So Zion Williamson. Peja Stojakovic is the backup shooting guard, and this can be interchanged with David Wesley if you prefer to use Wesley instead. And I decided to add Brandon Ingram to the team, and if a lot of people don't know who Brandon Ingram is, he came over in the trade to the Pelicans last season. He played a season and a half, I guess, if you want to call this season and a half, with the Pelicans, and he was having a monster year before season shut down or whatever. And I think that when it's all said and done, as long as he spends a couple more years with the Pelicans, he'll go down as one of the best Pelicans ever. He's a good young player, but that doesn't mean free agency is not going to lure him away. So for now, I put Brandon Ingram on this team. But if I do this in 2 or 3 years, Brandon Ingram may not be on the team if he's still not with the Pelicans. So we'll see. Tyson Chandler had some very solid years with the New Orleans franchise, and this guy's still going somehow. David Wesley we talked about. Again, him and Stojakovic are kind of interchangeable. Tyreke Evans I leave as the 13th man. I don't give Tyreke a lot of minutes. He is a good ball player. However, he can play the small forward position, but he also can bring the ball up the court as a point guard if you prefer to use him. So he kind of plays 2 roles as the backup small forward or the backup point guard on this team. So that's why I find him a little more valuable than putting Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon in the lineup. Now I feel that if you prefer to have another big guy, you could put Ryan Anderson in there instead of Tyreke Evans. I feel that any 3 of these guys are really interchangeable with each other. So that's totally up to you. So who coaches this team? Alvin Gentry, the current coach. I also, because he's on the game, I stuck Monty Williams as the assistant coach. Monty Williams was the coach for a long time before Alvin Gentry took over at the helm. So you can find Monty elsewhere on the game on a different team. So I stuck both of them on there, but Alvin Gentry is still the current coach, and only time will tell if he has any success with the Pelicans. So hopefully you agree with my lineup changes. Not a whole lot to do with the Pelicans out of the box. You really don't need to do these unless you want to. I just feel that maybe Julius Randle, since he moved on to the Knicks, you might want to consider doing, and at least at minimum, swapping out Brandon Ingram with Julius Randle, only because Ingram is currently on the team. If you're a Pelicans fan, you definitely know this guy. So thanks for watching another episode. Look forward to your comments below. Thanks.